Hello, everyone. I'm Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for our webinar today, Working Capital Optimization in the New Normal, Trends in Technology. First and foremost, I hope everyone is safe and healthy, and I want to convey the sincere gratitude of myself, my speakers, and everyone from our webinar partner today, HighRadius, for all of the relatives, friends, and families of each attendee who are on the front lines of fighting the coronavirus, and what these people are doing each and every single day to help make us all safe and healthy. I would like to thank our webinar partner today, HighRadius, who shares my commitment to thought leadership and serving the professional development needs of the Treasury and finance profession. Every company is dealing with disruption as Treasury professionals are adjusting to the new remote reality and the unfolding impacts of the global pandemic on all aspects of cash management, especially accounts receivable. What does the next normal mean in terms of AP, AR, and bank relationship management? How can Treasury professionals leverage technology to get paid and optimize working capital in the midst of market dynamics that are increasingly volatile on a weekly, if not even a daily basis? Our webinar today features Kay Rogers, North American Financial Transactions Director at Ferrero, one of the largest chocolates and confectionery companies in the world, whose reach extends across 55 countries on 5 continents, with iconic brands distributed in over 170 countries. Kay will share with us how she is leveraging technology to take more control of the cash conversion cycle and how she has adjusted to managing working capital as the next normal unfolds. A few quick words about Treasury Webinars. We offer webinars designed to empower Treasury, AP, and AR success at companies of all sizes across all industries. We only do what we do best, which is virtual events. Now I'd like to take a moment to go over our learning objectives as they offer our value proposition to you for investing an hour of your valuable time with us today. After the webinar, we want you to be able to understand current and emerging sentiments of Treasury leaders in the new COVID-19 reality. I'm going to review some results from a survey that I've been proud to be a part of, as is HighRadius, put on by the Treasury Coalition. We'd like to be able to understand how to redefine business usual in the Treasury world in the new remote reality. And most importantly, we'd like you to be able to identify specific opportunities to improve the value delivered by Treasury by leveraging the right technology in the next normal. A few housekeeping items that I was remiss. Everyone's disappointed I missed those. Any of you interested in receiving CTP credits for today's webinar, you'll have to remain on for the duration of the webinar, answer all of our polling questions during the webinar, and answer the short survey we have at the end of the webinar today once the webinar is over. We can take your questions at any time in the questions area of your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll do our best to get to your questions at the end of the webinar today. Fear not, if we don't get to your questions, we will get back to you after the webinar is over. So I went over some pretty aggressive learning objectives there. So I'm thrilled to have some amazing speakers with me to help me deliver on those objectives. The star of the show today is Kay Rogers. She's the Financial Transactions Director at Ferrero North America, which includes the USA, Canada, and Puerto Rico. She's responsible for all of Ferrero's AR, AP, and Treasury-related activities, including credit, collections, cash application, and deductions management. Prior to working at Ferrero, Kay held various positions in many different business sectors, such as consumer electronics at Panasonic, video games, Take-Two Interactive, food, AP Industries, and apparel, Amerex. Kay has been involved in several HighRadius implementations. In fact, while she was at Take-Two, she was the very first customer to set up the POD and claims module. And Kay is passionate about deductions management and has a proven track record of reducing and controlling chargebacks. Kay, welcome to the webinar today. We're thrilled to have you with us.
Thank you.
Also, one of my favorite webinar co-speakers is Elaine Nowak. She works to market HighRadius products to prospects and customers, strategizing on offerings, key messaging, and product positioning in the marketplace. She is truly dedicated to educating industry practitioners about business challenges and the benefits and value-added solutions available by adopting the latest in technological advances. Elaine, always a pleasure. Welcome to the webinar today.
Thank you, Ernie. Pleasure to be here.
So now let's dive into our agenda, give you a little roadmap of our time here together. First, I'm going to kick things off with, again, just reviewing level setting, right? So let's just all take a deep breath and all talk about, right, what are we seeing in terms of the coronavirus and Treasury? And then we'll take a look at some compelling research results. And then I'll go ahead and I'll hand the floor over to Elaine, and she'll walk us through why the right time it is to automate your ARs right now. So the good thing that I've seen is many companies have actually adopted technology, right, as this new reality is unfolded. So I've seen a lot of companies, in my estimation, be brave, right? The first thing you think is when there's a crisis, we're going to go in our hole and we're not going to change. But I've seen more and more companies change, right? Some out of necessity, but some out of vision. So I was on a podcast with a CFO who used to be the former chairman of the board at the AFP, and he told me, you should never waste a good crisis. Now, we don't like all the health impacts and everyone losing their jobs, but in terms of our business, it's the time to be aggressive and take advantage of the volatility. And then we'll get to the star of our show. Kay will guide us through her company's journey with Radius Integrated Receivables Process, and also give us some fantastic tips and just amazing advice on how to tackle the COVID-19 challenges and strategies as your company moves forward into the next normal. And then she'll also wrap things up with the way forward from here, right? What are we going to see? And then we'll bring Elaine back onto the show, and she's going to talk with us a little bit about how Radius is really a thought leader and really leading the charge in terms of delivering professional development to the office of the CFO. And then we'll wrap things up with a little time for Q&A. And so I call this managing treasury in the new remote reality. And some of you, these things are like, it makes sense, I've already done this. But I think it's always good to take a deep breath and say, am I really doing these things right now? Do I need to do those again? So understand your challenges in managing a remote workforce. And so some of us who are managers have never managed a remote workforce. And so we need to be cognizant that those things are changing. We need to interact with our staff differently. We need to understand their challenges. Guess what? The number 4, you need to communicate more with your employees, not less, right? And later on, Kay will share with us how she's had some innovative ways to keep her staff engaged. You need to understand the consequences the coronavirus will have on your business partners, your suppliers, your customers, your banks, your service providers. We're all in this new world together. And so let's be cognizant of that and understanding all sides. Crisis is when relationships are made, right? And so everybody can be happy when everything's going very well, but crisis is when relationships are made. And so a lot of times conditions that companies face are out of their control. So why punish them for that? Let's be a partner and move forward together. We also need to understand the consequences, right, the virus may have on our treasury success metrics. Now, companies like Kay, who are out on the very forefront of all technology, the impact might not be as great for them, but there still might be an impact. And for your company, if you're not quite along the line there, you need to level set your expectations, right? And I'll dovetail that on my last point. It's very important that you realign your expectations with your boss, your staff, your colleagues, and your business providers, because those expectations may need to change, and you may even have higher expectations. But let's just all communicate more, not communicate less, right? Again, communicate. Identify ways to keep your employees engaged. Have little contests, have virtual karaoke. Get creative and ask your colleagues, ask people on LinkedIn what they're doing. So now's the time to be creative. Your staff needs you, right? Even if you can make them smile, hopefully you can make them laugh. Just make them feel like they're appreciated. Extremely, extremely important during this time. And then communicate more, and then identify ways to offer more value, right, to your suppliers, your customers, your banks, and your service providers. And so this is the time to be a good partner, but also to add even more value. And so again, this is an opportunity for you to show that you really care. And so I've been honored to be in the Treasury Coalition, which was a coalition of companies that serve the Treasury profession, and HighRadius is as well. And so Craig Jeffrey, the CEO of Strategic Treasure, has brought a group of us together, and he started what we call the Global Crisis Monitor several weeks ago. And the survey was put together to really track what the sentiments, right, of the Treasury leaders are, what they're seeing, right, what they're doing and what they're seeing. And so just tremendously valued. And then just recently, this last week, Craig had the vision of transforming this from crisis to recovery, right? So how are we going to recover? So we all need to know, what do we need to do going forward? How are things going to change when we go back in office? And so just a few highlights. And I would welcome everyone to take the survey. There's a website, treasurycoalition.com. You can get the survey results and sign up for that. But in the beginning, I believe we had 200 respondents. We're up to 1,000 global respondents, and just some from their most recent survey. And so what we saw, and maybe in like the third week of the survey, we saw that work from home became a big concern. However, this is a little concerning to me. 58% of the folks have no plans, right? So what are you going to do, right? Are you communicating with your staff when they're going to come, right? How things are going to change? So that's incredibly important. So we need to first of all, we need to make sure our folks are healthy, taken care of, how things are going to change, right? Maybe you need to wear a mask. We're gonna have certain staff, but let's communicate with that. And so some concerns that we've seen, obviously, that impact to businesses, and I think we're still seeing that play out quite a bit. And so some industries are more impacted than others. But I think as folks has really started to see, right, 30 days out, 60 days out since the crisis really hit, their industries are really starting to see, right, the DSO and the challenges of their concerns. But the good news is that AR concerns are going down from survey respondents. And so it was really a really huge concern compared to everything else, but we're starting to see that go down a little bit, and I think we might see that go back up, unfortunately. I've seen a lot of people in crowds without masks, in my personal opinion. We're all going to be back in the office, so it's incredibly important that you know how to deliver value in a remote environment, because I wish you weren't going to be back there, but you are. It's also good in that it's helping us with our business continuity plans. And so just some of the other things that we've seen, a lot of leaders think financial normalcy. It's kind of gone out a little bit. I think people are 11 months. Again, it depends on your industry and company, but I'm glad to see that folks aren't overly optimistic. And then as far as the health seriousness, like when are we going to be able to feel comfortable, right, with our people going out and going back to whatever business in the new normal looks like? That's out to 10 months. So we've seen that oscillate up and down. And then the good news is that staff safety is back at the top of the concerns. However, this is a concern. We need to align those. And so again, an amazing survey, Global Crisis Recovery Monitor now. Look at all the names here, right? We're all working together, which is a very positive development. So I would encourage you to take 5 minutes every week and help us all serve yourself and the Treasury profession in general. And then again, there's a lot on the slide. If you want to copy the slides, please let me know. I don't want to read through the slides. I'm going to take up all Elaine's time, and she's going to get mad because we really want to give Kay as much time as she needs and more. So this is a slide. It's really cool. It shows the dynamics, right, of all these areas that we were tapping into: business continuity, completeness, safety, awareness, preparedness, financial impact, liquidity. And so it's just interesting to look at the dynamics. So I just wanted to show you that, to give you a sense of the amazing information that's available out there. And I'm actually speaking on a webinar with Craig Jeffrey in a week or so about the survey results. So stay tuned for that. And so now let's go ahead and pivot a little bit and let's let someone else speak. Now it's my pleasure to hand the floor over to Elaine Nowak. Elaine, take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Ernie. Work from home, got to say. Of course, now the lawn people just arrived outside my door, but c'est la vie. Very insightful data, super interesting information that we've collected from that survey. But just a quick moment, I'm going to talk about HighRadius. If those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a fintech enterprise software as a service company. We leverage artificial intelligence-based autonomous systems to help companies automate their accounts receivable and treasury processes. We're headquartered in Houston. That's where I live. We have offices in Europe and Asia, and we're the only provider of the integrated receivables platform for the entire order-to-cash cycle. Our HighRadius treasury management platform helps teams accurately do cash forecasting with artificial intelligence. We have touchless cash management and bank reconciliation, and we've been vetted by industry leaders. We have strategic partnerships and investments with the likes of Citi, PNC, and Bank of America. We have dozens of the largest companies, more than 350 Fortune 1000 customers on our platform, and we process upwards of 1 trillion, that's with a T, B2B transactions annually in the world using our solution. But we are represented by a wide range of industries. So let's take a look at the landscape. So before the COVID pandemic, the undertaking of a digital transformation, what it means is it's reimagining your business in the digital age by using digital technology. And the objective is to create new or modify existing business processes to meet changing business and market conditions. So by employing automation, companies were expecting to maximize their internal team productivity, the efficiency of their teams, And that's going to allow businesses and leaders to do more with less. So overall, technology speeds up processes, increases productivity, and allows teams to be more effective, ultimately helping companies achieve goals faster. Now, over the years, technology has had a significant role to play in creating value for the accounts receivable leaders. So here's 3 ways in which technology has helped finance teams to create this value. So first, technology provides end-to-end control and visibility over receivables. Secondly, it enables highly accurate cash forecasting. And third, automation allows teams to reallocate resources from a transaction-based sort of clerical kind of work to much more high-impact tasks. So looking at the impact of this pandemic on business, the benefit of these values is even more today. So in our current economy, I really believe, and we've seen, that technology will play a big role to ensure the elevation of accounts receivable in the office of the CFO. So now here we are in the midst of the pandemic, and whereas many businesses who had been exploring digital transformation initiatives before the crisis, now they're considering putting it on hold. So given the current conditions, the challenges, the potential negative outcomes, the impact of this coronavirus, it may be thought that undertaking a new project would be out of the question. Digital transformation, it's just not possible with its limited resources and budget cuts and furloughs. So it feels like it would be really hard to execute. Now, HighRadius conducted a COVID-19 effect order-to-cash leadership survey, and here are some of the results that we saw. The full details of these are actually available on the HighRadius COVID Resource Center. So I encourage you to take a look there if you'd like to see more. But when those who took the survey were asked the key challenge areas that they as business leaders see today, or where they needed guidance, the top 2 areas of focus were working capital and cash flow. So 87% of the business leaders who were surveyed said risk management and tightening credit control were the key challenge for them. And then 75% of the respondents said managing DSO through effective collections was going to be the roadblock on their business front. So to manage your working capital and to gain visibility into your cash flow, a credit leader would want to prioritize what risk your business is exposed to and how you can reduce and manage that risk. So you also need to make sure that your cash inflow for the next 90 days is improved. And a key way that we've seen to do that is through effective collections. So within the AR function, credit and collections teams have a much more significant role to play as they revise these policies to tighten control and minimize the risk exposure to the business and redefine their existing collection strategies to ensure that no account is left behind. So the truth is, right now is a time when automation is needed more than ever because it helps accounts receivable teams secure the financial health of a business. And it moves them into a much more strategic role in the office of the CFO. Businesses are realizing the true potential of technology in keeping operations running, and companies that leverage technology are at a competitive advantage to their counterparts who don't. So today, we have one of our customers, Kay Rogers, the North America Financial Transaction Director at Ferrero. She's going to share with us how they use HighRadius integrated receivables to drive productivity across their AR, AP, and treasury teams. Kay will be sharing with us the value that automation created and how they're leveraging that technology to tackle the impact of the COVID crisis. Kay, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to be here and excited to share some hopefully insightful information of how to navigate these choppy waters that we're in today. So first, let me tell you a little bit about Ferrero. We are the 3rd largest confectionery company in the world. We are present in 53 countries. We receive love and recognition from across the globe with our products being sold across 170 countries. And we have product plants in 5 different continents. I think this slide shows 22. I believe we're up to maybe 24 now because we also have 2 new plants that are operating in the United States. So moving on to, yeah.
My daughter couldn't live without Nutella. My girls couldn't live without the Nutella.
Yep, everybody loves it. Actually, that's our biggest seller right now during the crisis. I don't think we can make enough of it. It's flying off the shelves. Yep, it's flying off the shelves. So moving on, what was life like at Ferrero before automation? So basically you had inefficient credit work lists, workflows, manual processing of remittances, inefficient collections work lists, manual backup, data aggregation, categorization. Everything was manual. Credit work lists, it was a manual file that was created, manually pulling Dun & Bradstreet reports, doing financial statement analysis, in Excel, and then going desk to desk for approvals. And then same thing with remittances. Customers' payment came in and you had to manually offset line items in our ERP system, SAP. Collections, there was no priority, automated priority. You looked at your AR every day, had to go out and determine which customers you should focus on collections. And the same thing with deductions, all backup, everything that needed to be pulled was all done manually. So basically what we had was a silo in the order to cash. We had, it was a big hindrance. We were not able to take real-time actions. There wasn't any flow of information between the systems. It was a siloed system. Department, basically each separate area, credit, sales, order fulfillment, invoicing, cash application, collections, deductions, all flowed autonomously. They did not really communicate or work as well together because the sharing of information was very challenging. So then we maintained data integrity by breaking down the silos. Our solution was to have a common flat platform that had an integrated system for all of the AR processes, which connected all the teams with our customers and eliminated the issue of information flow between the systems. So having everything in one place and the information shared between each one of the different modules gave us the ability to have information sharing between all the different functional areas and made it a lot easier for us to operate. So the high radius integrated receivables reduced the amount of effort required in every process to a bare minimum. And it helped the team focus on tasks that required more of a human touch, like strategic decision-making and creating better relationships with the customers. If cash application remittances could be captured and aggregated very easily, coming in from multiple sources and multiple formats. It enabled us to evaluate the credibility of our customers with advanced scoring algorithms, and it allowed us to achieve a proactive approach towards collections with collectors' work lists getting prioritized automatically and suggested action items for the day appearing in their work list. Also, if deductions, it got us through disputes faster, hence allowing the analysts to focus on more volume of accounts. So just a little point. So, for example, with the collections and credit piece, so one of the metrics in the collections piece is what's called average days to pay, which the system actually calculates based upon historical information. That average days to pay is one of the metrics that is used in the credit scoring module is part of the algorithms to determine the risk category of the customer, meaning high, medium, or low. And for example, those scoring modules, so this is a perfect example of where the integrated system helps the information flow between the different functional areas within the company. So results. What we've had very, very good results since implementation of the system. Our hit rate for cash is 85%, meaning 85% of our customers' remittances are automatically applied. So obviously that frees up time for the cash applicators to do more value-added activities. Same thing, like I mentioned earlier, about the collections module driving the credit module, which will assign risk categories, high, medium, and low. And those risk categories and credit limit approvals that are done in the HighRadius system are then automatically sent to our SAP system and updated there, and that's what drives our credit by exception. Meaning, for example, a high-risk customer will, if there's an invoice 1 day past due, their order will be put on hold until we can review and take whatever action is necessary. So it not only flows within the system and within the department, it also flows within our ERP system.
Okay, let me ask you a question here, because this one is absolutely phenomenal to me. On the deduction side, 58% reduction in open deductions. Can you share with us maybe a little color on how was that more about visibility or better communication with customers, the type, the timing? Because that's really phenomenal. I think people would love to dig in a little bit on that one.
Okay, so basically, and I think we'll see that a little further down, but one of the main activities in deduction management is you need the backup for your deductions. And a large part of the deduction analyst's time was spent going out to various portals and pulling one by one the deduction backup for the deductions we received. So the way the system operates is it will go out to, and I think you mentioned earlier that I did the first POD and claims implementation when I was at Take-Two, is the system goes out and it automatically pulls the backup overnight from the portals. So we have the backup for the deduction for the most part before the deduction is even created in our Cash App module. And it merges it so it's there. So that gives our analysts more time to be able to work the deduction, validate the deduction, and less time just pulling the backup.
All right. Great.
So obviously productivity is greatly increased because all of the repetitive manual tasks are taken away. Okay. So and here's an example of what we were just talking about with the time and resource investment in an ideal world versus, the real world. So before, 55% of the time of our analysts was spent doing repetitive standardized work, such as what I just spoke about, with pulling deduction backup, also with, keying off line items for invoices that are getting paid. So when you take away that repetitive standardized work, you free up your team's time to be able to do more value-added activities such as decision-making, validation, and getting things done in a more timely manner. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Ernie right now, who has a poll question.
Thank you so much, Kay, and for your amazing content and insights already. So I've gone ahead and launched our first polling question today. Just a reminder, those of you interested in receiving CTP credit for today's webinar, you'll have to answer all of our polling questions today. Of course, we appreciate everyone's consideration in answering our polling questions today. So if you can do that for us, it would be much appreciated. I also want to remind you that we can still take your questions at any time in the questions area of your GoToWebinar control panel. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the polling question up for just another 10 seconds or so. So we're a little bit low on the usual percentage I would see for people that are going to vote. So if you want to interested in CTP credit, let's get on the ball and click that button here. So I'll give you another 5 seconds. I missed sports, so I'm going to give you the 5-second countdown. 5, 4, 3. Okay, I paused because I don't want to cut people off. I know there's a little latency here. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for that. And let me go ahead and just take a quick peek here before we get back to Kay. Give her a little break in the action here. So it looks like the focus from, when you give all the above, right, that's kind of, sometimes we have a pile on there, but that's understandable. And it's good that you have your eyes on all three of those balls, right? Because right now, all these things matter. And one thing that Kay's touched on, which she'll touch on a lot more, is just a tremendous value in not working in silos. And so we see collections management, and of course, all three of those are a focus of the three. So thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to do that for us. And so let me go ahead and turn the floor back over to Kay, and she's going to really dial in on the significance of working capital. Kay, take it away.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, I mean, I think the big thing here is really what is the significance of working capital? How important is it? I mean, it's a circle. Basically, you need to collect your money to pay your bills. And that means paying your vendors who help keep your business running, whether it means your raw materials or the electricity that keeps your plant running. And if you can't pay your vendors, you can't run your business, which includes making or distributing your product, which means you can't bill your customers, so you don't have any money to collect. So working capital is really what keeps your business running. So it's a critical component to the success of a business, and something that really, really needs to be watched very carefully. So how did we act upon, tackling the COVID crisis and its impact to financial stability? One of the things we did is we moved our monthly meetings with the CFO and the CEO to a weekly basis. The reports that we provide are reports on high value, high risk customers. We share working capital reports. We give updates about top important impacted customers, their balances, and the status of past dues. How do we balance customer expectations? So basically, our customers' expectations are basically the same as ours. You want to keep your business running, and you want to be profitable. And one of the things, the system gives the ability to manage and watch customers very closely, very carefully, very timely. You need to identify, who's really having a problem versus who's maybe, not so much so. I mean, we had customers 2 days after the lockdown who were asking for extended terms. I mean, you have to use, go out and look and see. I mean, is there a valid reason for wanting extended terms? Look at the financial condition, talk to them, use the credit on demand module to be able to pull more information. So you also have to look at the different industries. So there are certain industries that may have a bigger impact, so you may want to watch them a little bit more carefully. So you need to work with the customer on an arrangement that's going to benefit both of you. So you need to have collaboration between your AR, your AP, and your treasury team. Cash forecasting is very critical. The system gives us the ability to automate the cash forecasting process, which is based upon our customers' historical payment trends, as I mentioned earlier. We have 6 different business units that we're managing. So to keep track of them all and have different cash forecasting, including accounts payable, is a lot. We also have to forecast our payables. So keeping track of it all it's very helpful to have it automated and be able to determine what you think based upon history is going to come in, and also factor in the probability of payment delays because of the COVID situation. Remote work for us. So this is a very, very important area. I can say this, we managed to maintain our KPI levels since this all started back in March. Our statistics were better than the industry average to begin with, and we still managed to maintain those KPIs right now. The whole picture visibility that the system helps to provide and manage any factors which would contribute to a change in our KPIs. So being able to see everything all at once and watch everything very closely, monitoring it, especially with high radius, the credit on demand, outside reporting information that comes, gives us the ability to really be on top of any changes to our customers and the environment out there, and also takes into consideration their payments. So one of the other things that we're doing, we're using the credit on demand tool to also look at the health of our vendors, because you know, that's critical too, as I mentioned with the working capital piece. You know, if we have a raw material supplier who's having financial problems, it could, you know, factor into, you know, not having product available to make our own product. So we take our top vendors and we also watch them and analyze them and see if we have anybody that, you know, we think could be a potential problem. And that's part of our weekly reporting package to the CFO and the CEO. So how does the automation help us? It helps us greatly because we have all kinds of automated for correspondence for collections, for example. So basically the tool is set up to be very proactive. It will have certain customers at high, medium, low risk, again, have different parameters. A high risk customer will get a reminder that they have a payment coming due 10 days before it's due. That's an automated thing. That it's not a manual effort. It automatically happens. There are, you know, the day it goes past due, there's another correspondence that goes out. So a lot of it is all automated. The system does it. The system manages the collections. We watch it. We handle exceptions. And it gives us the ability to be able to see where we're having difficulty and problems. With cash application, we see what payments are applied real time. I mean, cash comes in yesterday, is by this morning, by noontime, it's all applied. So we know exactly where we're at. And it also gives us the ability to watch our deduction trends and see if, you know, some customers are starting to take more deductions than they have in the past, and that raises a flag as to, you know, maybe they're trying to manage their cash flow by taking more deductions. So the way forward from here, where are we going? You know, where, first of all, I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much I truly believe that if you're considering any kind of automation, that an integrated receivables package is really the way to go. I know that there are other packages out there that have are specific to certain activities. There's collection packages, there's cash application. I mean, the bank even does cash application. But being able to have a system that talks to each module and each area of your AR function is definitely a big benefit. And as we spoke earlier, eliminates silos and enables you to be much more efficient, and also helps you to monitor your risk based upon your historical information, your own historical information. So just a little example of how that happens, an integrated receivables use case here, for example. So this is an example. So you have an account, you see in your collections module that they're at 100% of their credit limit. So basically then you send out The system sends out an automated correspondence to the customer. The customer then pays you. The cash application is automatically done by the system. The credit limit is updated, and it's updated to the ERP, and any orders that might have been compromised are now ready to go out the door. And ordinarily, I mean, in the past, you would have had to do that all manually. You wouldn't have known that your credit line was at 100% of its utilization. You can get a whole list of that. So the whole automated thing and the pieces going back and forth and talking to each other really makes the system flow and helps you get things done quickly and more efficiently. So what does this do? It really does help build a better customer experience. It helps your employees focus more on strategic tasks, and it builds a better experience for your customers. So you are servicing them by helping to monitor their AR closely and help them to, also react. We're doing a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. We're spending less time putting out fires and more time managing the receivable. So the impact of COVID on Ferrero, we are leveraging technology to the fullest to help us not have any disruption to our business. We are using the system to see what companies have impacted, which ones aren't. We know which segments of business to look at. For example, yes, we're in the food business. Customers who are in the food service business, meaning they, provide things to restaurants, are more impacted than, your major retailers like a Walmart and Target who have everything. So we use the system to help us watch, manage, and we also use it to collaborate with sales. One of the things that sales also has seats in the system. So they can look in the system and they manage deductions. I mean, for their trade spend, they're managed within the system. So they have visibility to what's happening. We also meet with them continuously to go over the financial health of their customers, where we see down the line they may have some, credit limitations and be impacted, so that they can maybe, look at where else they can send the business or try to sell the business, and start planning ahead. So the system also helps our sales volumes and helps us to keep our risk to a minimum. So I hope you found all of this information very informative. I hope it helps. I'm happy to ask any questions, I think, at the end of this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ernie again for another poll question.
Thank you very much, Kay. So we have two polling questions left. I think the third polling question will help us dive into whether you think it's a good time to automate your treasury operations. So in order to be mindful of our time, we're going to skip the polling question here, and I'd like to hand the floor over to Elaine. I really want to give her enough time to talk about the picture beyond and really have some time for questions with Kay. So Elaine, the floor is yours again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie, and thank you, Kay. I think some truly amazing results for Ferrero and touting the advantages of an integrated receivables management solution. We've actually I'm going to just share a couple other clients, what they've seen in terms of results. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, really, they were able to increase the control over their credit approval process, and it helped them to enable a proactive collections approach, similar to what Kay talked about a little bit. At Ricoh, they use the automation to enable remote workforce management for their teams, and that allowed them to really mobilize quickly and with minimum disruption because they had the technology in place. And at Danone, they use the HighRadius technology for hassle-free data. They get the access to that data. It's all in one place. The cloud-based software as a service allows it to really, it means that extracting data from the ERP system, it's sort of old news because the cloud system does it for them in working with their ERP system.
Elaine, let me
So,
go ahead and jump in here and ask you a question real quick. Sorry to interrupt you.
sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious as to so in other areas I've seen that companies they've been having people reach out to them, right, and realize, wow, Houston, I have a problem, which you're in Houston, right? That's pretty good. So they reach out more proactively and say, please help me. Have you guys seen a big increase? And also, have you seen a change in the type of inquiries you're getting, and are some of the questions changing that you're getting from your clients and maybe your prospects?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of the webinar, and what Kay also alluded to on one of her slides. Here in Houston, instead of saying, Houston, we have a problem, what we like to say is, Houston, we have a solution. And what we're seeing is that managing the capital and really understanding the changes and revisions to your collection strategies are definitely the key points that are coming up more often, and that's what we're hearing from our customers.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about, Kay touched on this, some great information in regards to how do you pivot, how do you change in relation to what's going on with this pandemic. We actually have what we created, an order-to-cash community for the COVID-19 crisis with a lot of interesting information. We have a FinTech advocacy network that I actually manage, in which we try to bring together thought leaders and industry experts for credit who can share information and insights and lessons learned as a community. There's a lot of surveys and report information. We alluded to a report at the beginning that it's available there on the website as well. There's some resources for the remote working enablement. And so I encourage you to go take a look and check out the response center that was created.
Elaine,
so
let me also ask you this.
Sure.
Sorry, jump in on all the great stuff you guys are doing. Now, are you guys also having a conference in July, a virtual conference? Do you want to touch on that for a moment with us?
Yes. So we're having what we call Credit Tech. It's going to be a week of sort of roundtables and panel discussions, expert sessions, in which we're going to be, we've got a bunch of customer speakers lined up. I believe Kay is going to be, again, presenting some information in one of the sessions. And so it's going to be an opportunity to virtually log in, kind of network with some of your peers as well. We're really trying to take advantage of some of this new technology in terms of bringing people together and networking, in addition to proposing some terrific content with some of our partners and some of our customers and other leading industry experts. So that's July 20th to the 24th. More information will be coming forth soon.
Okay, thank you so much. I really wanted to highlight that because, all companies, right, AR just became the most important thing. So I wanted to make sure that people were aware, because a lot of times, all the other stuff you're doing is people just don't know what to do, right? They don't feel like they can reach out to folks. They don't have anywhere to ask questions and network with peers. So I think what you guys are doing on that front is incredibly great timing. And so I encourage everyone to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a polling question here as I launch our Q&A session. So just want to let everybody know we can still take your questions in the Q&A box of your GoToWebinar control panel. If we don't get to your questions, we'll follow up with you after the webinar. I just hope that you take the advantage of tapping into Kay's amazing knowledge and expertise. I'm actually really excited because everyone knows I love Treasury, so I'm thrilled to have Kay here. Kay, let's go ahead and direct the first question your way. And so this is incredibly important. I think some people could really use your insights. What are some of the leading indicators that Treasury and finance leaders you believe should be tracking to really stay on top of their working capital and cash flow?
Okay, so I think the obvious answer is DSO, but I think also you need to look at your DDO, which is days deductions outstanding. If they're increasing, it's taking you longer to manage them, which means that, and it's also reducing your cash flow because you're getting more deductions that are coming in. You obviously need to look at the percentage of your open AR greater than 90 days. Is that going up? So, keeping your aging within control is critical to keep looking at it. And looking at if there are customers which are starting to delay payments and their average days to pay is, getting higher.
Right. Yeah, and this kind of dovetails into kind of a follow-up question, and then you just mentioned one of
Mhm.
those is like a couple of the warning signs, right? That people are like, I need to get out in front of this. You mentioned changes in customer payment behavior. Is there a
Mhm.
couple other warning signs you might be able to give folks that they really need to get their radar up even more?
Well, I mean, you have their payment behavior,
Right,
requesting extended terms. I mean, that's a flag. Increase in deductions.
right,
And you also need to look at, the market situation.
right.
Is it based, I mean, I don't even know that it's necessarily, probably New York, New Jersey, geography wise, were hit harder than other areas of the country. Because we, as you know, had a high volume of COVID cases. And, but it also could be industry specific, as I mentioned earlier. The food service industry right now is hurting. I mean, restaurants are closed down. So I think you need to keep a watch on those three things. Hello?
Yeah, let me go ahead and direct the next question to Elaine, and I'll weigh in on this as
Mm-hmm.
well. So, Elaine, in your interactions
Hmm.
with your clients lately, can you share with us some of the biggest challenges that they've been facing in the COVID crisis, and then what have been some of the recommendations that you've shared with them based on what you've heard?
So I think besides the two big factors that we talked about, managing working capital, what's the visibility? What's your cash position? And how are you managing and understanding what's going on within your organization? And I think between that and the collections, revising your collection strategies, um, those are challenges that we've seen. But I think even just the whole work from home, we had
Yeah.
customers who had never worked from home before. And so trying to take their workforce online at their houses. I mean, we had people, we've heard from customers that said, someone didn't even have a desk at home, or they only had a desktop computer at work and they didn't have a laptop at home. And so it's, how do you transform from office-based work to working from all different kinds of situations and environments? Another, I
Mm-hmm.
think, challenge that we're hearing about is this cross-team collaboration and the connectivity. So even just talking about things as simple as broadband or having telephone connections and internet. And then when you look at the work from home and all the different factors, people working on their own, people with pets, people with kids, so much of that had to be taken into consideration because now they're working from an environment in which it may not be the ideal setting to get work done. So we definitely saw that challenge. And now that we're a couple months into it, you can see how people have sort of adapted, and others have become more flexible as a result. Another area that we see is how do you manage that workforce? How are you tracking their productivity? And how do you do that while balancing things like burnout? I hear a lot people say, okay, well, I got 3 hours back from my workday. I'm not commuting, let's say, into the city to get to the office. So I've got those 3 hours back. So now is that person spending those 3 hours at the desk even more? And all that additional work, is that going to make it more difficult for them to sort of balance between work life? So, putting in those, the parameters, making sure that you're not spending too much time on your computer
Right.
and risking burnout as a result, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's great. Let me go ahead and weigh in here from, I've been doing polls on this and I'm speaking to a lot of folks. So you touched on almost all the good stuff, which is I knew you would. So for me, I think people have challenges in keeping people engaged virtually. And so kind of navigating those waters a little bit, keeping people engaged, making them feel like you're not being intrusive. Doing, like I mentioned earlier, having some like little karaoke hour, guess who's work from home space, guess who's pet. That might be, so you have to get a little bit creative. But again, I think people have a challenge with communication, and I think part of that is just the fear of over communicating. You cannot over communicate, right? Let's not do emails, right? We're all getting too many emails, so let's let's do Zoom, let's use tools like Slack, and just be a little bit more creative. So let me go back to Kay. So I think that one of the things to me that was really compelling when I talked to Kay was the structure. And so in case, it seems like APAR all report up through Treasury. Can you report on the value in that and really why companies might want to look at that type of structure and how valuable that is?
Well, because basically going back to the whole working capital piece, they all have, a very big impact on working capital. So, as I mentioned, you need to collect your money to pay your vendors to keep your business running. And as far as cash flow reporting, it's easier to, rather than have it segmented, to have it all reporting to the same area, because this way your departments that manage each individual area are collaborating in order to, do an accurate cash flow forecast. And also, each other knows where there are industry problems or problems with customers or problems with vendors that we need to watch. They're going to have an impact on that cash flow.
Right. So, Kay, one more question your way. So I know you guys your company's really technology focused, but on a personal/professional level, what has been the biggest challenge that you found in functioning in this new remote environment?
I'm a people person. So I like seeing people. I like having meetings. I like having discussions. I like being able to walk up to people's desks and, do some brainstorming. So, being home by myself and not have my team around me has been a big challenge. What I've done to try to manage that better is I do have 3 times a week a management team meeting using Teams. I encourage my people to also have meetings, and I ask that people make themselves visible, not that you're talking to your computer screen. I encourage that, you have the ability to see each other and talk to each other. And I once every couple of weeks, I engage my entire team and talk to them and how are they doing. And so I think it's very important to make sure that that your team knows that you're there for them, and that, you're still working very closely with them. You're still, there if they have any questions, if they need any help. So I think that's keeping it personal is a very important part of getting through this crisis right now.
Yep. Absolutely. Love it. Keeping it personal. And my other favorite phrase is, Houston, we have a solution. So those are my 2 favorite phrases that I've got.
Yes.
So,
there you go.
Elaine,
I'm a people person too. I'm a people person too.
No.
So
Elaine,
I know, right? Those who know me.
Some people might think I am, but that's up for debate. So, so it's amazing to have 3 amazingly dynamic people on a webinar together. So that's kind of a novel concept, right? So, Elaine, let me go ahead and ask you the last question here. And so, we've got all these things going on here, but life at HighRadius goes on, right? So what are some of the things that maybe on the functionality side that we saw from HighRadius at the end of last year, and what are some of the things that are becoming even more of a focus going into this year and then maybe next year? Give us a little preview on that at all?
Sure. I think one of the key areas, and again, this goes back to what are we looking at in terms of working capital, right? So it's having artificially intelligent based solutions and technology that allows for something such as cash forecasting. We can't stress enough that this is the direction in which so many people are moving. And then when you have something like this kind of crisis and the huge impact that it's going to make on your work, on the people, on the industry, having visibility into cash is huge. So we're really seeing how this artificial intelligence, these engines that are now being put into place, are really going to have an impact in terms of allowing that visibility into your cash position. We're also seeing, and then the other area that we have seen a lot of sort of advances in technology is the autonomous receivables. And so that's where we have things like digital assistants, which, you think about, that's the future. That's going to be the next time. That's going to be, years from now, but it's actually happening already. People, if you just even talk about people, have already embraced it in their home lives. Things like having Siri or having Alexa or using quote unquote virtual assistants to help you, find a location, get things done, turn on your whatever, your smart home, that's also going to be the future for business and for work. And we're really seeing how that's applicable in areas like credit, collections, where artificially intelligent technology and digital systems are going to make that happen.
Right. Yeah, just to dovetail on that one quick second. Now, for me, one of the things that I know is coming, it might already be here, is just imagine if you're a Treasury professional and you want to do variance analysis and you say, Frida, what is the main cause of my variance, right? Wow, how long would it take you to answer that question? And so let me go ahead and wrap things up. I want to let everyone know that we are having the first ever full-blown Treasury and Finance virtual conference. We will have networking. We will have an exhibit hall. We will have a community that we're building out for the Office of the CFO. And so HighRadius is my lead partner. So I want to make sure everyone is well aware of that, and we're thrilled to have HighRadius as our sponsor. So if you want more information about that, please let me know. We're going to redefine the ROI of any event. And finally, I want to thank our speakers, once again, Elaine and Kay, for your fantastic insights today. As a Treasury practitioner at heart, I found it absolutely fascinating. And finally, to you, the audience, thank you so much for your valuable time. We appreciate each and every one of you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and make the rest of your day great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.